Thanks for joining me on this live feed. I was trying to do this off my laptop, but they changed the format on the live thing, so I'm going to do this off my phone again. So thanks for joining me. This is a follow-up to last week's session for stress reduction and immune system support. If you haven't already watched that previous session, I encourage you to do that at some point, because this session is basically, like I said, a follow-up to that previous session. If you're watching this after the fact, it will still be effective. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, I don't think, this time, about the things that are happening in the session or what to do. But never know. This is totally spontaneous, impromptu, so we will see what comes up. Just remember, if you are somewhat new to BodyTalk, you will be doing the tapping on your head, chest, and belly. So when you're tapping on the head, just make sure that your fingers are spread out wide enough so that you're tapping on both the right and left sides of your head simultaneously, because that's activating the head brain. When you tap on the chest, anywhere on the breastbone is fine to activate the heart brain. And then when you tap on the belly, anywhere on the belly is fine in order to activate the gut brain. Okay, so I'll instruct you when to do the tapping, but for now, just take a few moments. You can make yourself comfortable, sit down, lie down, have this on speaker, obviously, if you're listening to this on your phone or your laptop, or you can have your earbuds in if you want a little bit more, just bring yourself inside a bit more. So go ahead and settle in. Take a few slow, deep breaths. I'm going to set this up here. Take off my glasses. Just settling in, taking a few slow, deep breaths. Hopefully you can hear me okay. So that previous session, the last time I checked, just out of curiosity to see how many people that session has reached, is almost 6,000. So thanks for watching. Thanks for sharing. I know there are a lot of people who have been helped by the session. A lot of people have been impacted and assisted by it. So just share with whomever. And if you're one of those people who are on the front lines, doctors, nurses in the hospitals, it may be a bit strange, or if you are, someone who has COVID-19, is impacted by the coronavirus, please share this with them. If you're a doctor or nurse, I was going to say it may seem a bit odd to play the recording for your patients, but I'd encourage you to do that, and definitely do it for yourself as a form of self-care. There's a lot of other tools at your disposal. The BodyTalk Cortices brain balancing technique is one of them. You can find that video you can find it on my Facebook page, you can find it on my YouTube channel, and there are plenty of other instructors and practitioners who have made videos demonstrating how to do the BodyTalk Cortices technique, which is for balancing your brain and your nervous system. It does a lot to help decrease stress and support your health and well-being. So I definitely encourage you to check out that video from whomever, the cortices brain balancing, and and tap out your cortices at least once or twice, even 3 times a day, just to help decrease stress and overwhelm, help you to support your immune system, and it's helping you to stay focused. So, just coming back, settling in, taking a few slow, deep breaths. Okay, so this is a follow-up for the previous session. So we're focusing on a specific part of the brain, a part which we brought into focus in the previous session, the amygdala. So the amygdala are almond-shaped structures in the brain. There's one in each hemisphere. So we're bringing focus to these amygdala and focusing on the amygdala's connection with the immune system. So the amygdala plays a big role in the fight-flight stress response. And so that fight-flight stress response energy actually permeates the immune system, right? So the immune system in its own way is a kind of fight-flight stress response, has that fight-flight stress response energy to it, right? Because the immune system will fight foreign invaders, foreign substances, which it hasn't detected before. So we're bringing focus to this connection between the amygdala and your immune system, and we're going into your immune system. And in the immune system, we're highlighting that fight-flight stress response energy. Part of this fight-flight response in the immune system is the fear of being attacked. The fear of being attacked. So one of the things that we recognize in the BodyTalk system is the connection between mind, body, and spirit, right? Everything is connected. Everything influences everything. So in every BodyTalk session, either overtly or on another level, we'll always be addressing the psychological, the emotional, the spiritual, the energetic components, factors that are influencing your physical health and well-being or other areas of your life, right? So in this fight-flight stress response energy function within the immune system, there's this fear of being attacked. And this fear of being attacked is related to the to COVID-19 and the coronavirus pandemic. So in every BodyTalk session, one of the primary things really that we're always doing is bringing things into focus, bringing things into consciousness. BodyTalk is a consciousness-based healthcare system. And one of the factors from a BodyTalk perspective, one of the factors that really contributes to people's health issues and sets them up for dis-ease is a lack of consciousness, right? A lack of awareness. So the simple act of bringing things into focus and bringing things into awareness is enough to set things into motion and help your body to heal. Okay, so from here, We're focusing on your brain. We're going into your brain, and we're focusing on your corpus callosum. The corpus callosum is a bundle of nerve fibers that runs right through the midline of your brain. It connects the right and left hemispheres of your brain with each other. So we're focusing on this corpus callosum, and we're focusing in the corpus callosum, we're bringing focus to the disconnect between the hemispheres of your brain, right? So the hemispheres of your brain are intended to work together. They're intended to communicate with each other, provide each other with information and feedback, so the entire brain can work as a single functioning brain. Most people, especially in more industrialized cultures, nations, are left brain dominant. Right? Very dominated by the logical, the analytical, the rational, that very kind of linear type of thinking, which is so prevalent. The right hemisphere, right brain is more related to creativity, intuition, thinking outside the box. So with the corpus callosum, we're focusing on that disconnect between the hemispheres of your brain. So they're not working together. They need to work together. So what we're going to do here is bring focus to the left hemisphere and its connection with your right hemisphere. And focusing on the right and left hemispheres working together as a team with the help of that corpus callosum. All right, so we're going to tap this out. So place a hand on your head. This is bringing focus to the amygdala, to that corpus callosum, to each of the hemispheres of your brain, and all the stuff that I mentioned. So now you'll do the tapping, right? So you're going to tap on your head, making sure your fingers are spread out wide enough so that you're tapping on both the right and left sides simultaneously, activating the brain. Make sure you're taking slow, deep breaths. Tapping on the breastbone to activate the heart brain, and tapping on the belly to activate the gut brain. And just continuing to tap, alternating the tapping on each of these three areas in whatever order, in whatever way. You might feel like tapping quickly, slowly, with a lot of force, very gently. You might feel like tapping on one area for a long period of time, another area just briefly. Just do a bit more tapping, taking slow, deep breaths, just relaxing into the session. Relax your head, relax your face, relax your scalp, your jaw, relax your body. The amygdala, its role in the fight, flight, stress response, the connection with your immune system, and all this stuff for your brain. Okay, when you're ready, you can stop tapping, you can put down your hand, just breathe naturally. We're focusing again on your brain and going into your brain. And we're focusing on the fear of COVID-19. Fear of COVID-19. And we're focusing on the connection with your lungs, both of your lungs. Just need to plug this in here. Okay. Focusing on the connection with both of your lungs. Going into your lungs. And we're focusing on the lining of your lungs. Focusing on the lining of your lungs. So this is really the air passages of your lungs, and focusing on the lining of the air passages in your lungs. So we're going into that lining. So we're zooming in, so bringing focus all the way down to the cellular level. Going into the cells which line the air passages of your lungs. And in those cells, we're focusing on the DNA. We're going into the DNA of these cells which line the air passages of your lungs. So remember, just follow along as if you're being led through a guided visualization or meditation. Bring your focus, bring your awareness to what you're feeling, what you're experiencing. Just notice. Focusing on the level of the DNA. Going into the DNA and focusing on genetics. Focusing on genetics. So your DNA is made up of genes, right? Many kinds of genes. So we're going into the genetics. And wasn't really expecting to be going here. So we're going into the base pairs. So you might remember from your biology classes the nucleotide bases, the A, T, G, C, that make up the rungs of the DNA ladder. So we're focusing on the base pairs here within these cells that line the air passages of your lungs, the base pairs of the DNA. Zooming in on those base pairs, we're focusing in on a specific nucleotide base, the C, the cytosine base. And we're focusing on the connection between that C nucleotide base and what's called a DNA methyl marker. Okay, so DNA methyl markers are part of a whole field of recently emerging study within genetics called epigenetics. If you want to learn more about epigenetics, one of the people who has really brought a lot of awareness to epigenetics, at least in the holistic mind-body community, is someone named Bruce Lipton. He wrote a book called Biology of Belief. He has a lot of YouTube videos that you can watch. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about that right now, but you can check him out, and I encourage you to do so. It's very interesting and informative. So we're focusing on these DNA methyl markers that are connected with the cytosine base pair here in the cells which line your lungs, the air passages of your lungs. And this epigenetic DNA methyl marker has to do with the fear of getting sick. The fear of getting sick. So one of the things that I'm sure you know and realize is that stress compromises the immune system, right? So if there's a fear of getting sick, that's obviously a stressor, right? That's a stressor. So one of the things that's interesting about these methyl markers and these epigenetic factors is that these epigenetic factors, there are several kinds, but these epigenetic factors basically turn genes on and off. They influence the expression of your genes, of your DNA. So contrary to popular belief in what I think many of us learned in our high school or other biology classes, we assume that our genetics are written in stone, that if our parents or other relatives had a specific disease or condition, then we're bound to get that condition as well, whether that be obesity or diabetes or cancer or whatever the case may be. But what epigenetics is proving and demonstrating is that's not at all the case. That you might be predisposed towards a specific health issue, but really it's other factors in the environment, other aspects of your life that actually determine whether or not those genes get activated, right? Whether or not you actually end up getting that disease in the first place, the disease that trends through your family. So some of the factors, right? So these epigenetic factors, these epigenetic mechanisms, these molecules, actually get created in response to what's going on in your life, in your world, not just on a physical level, but also psychologically, emotionally. So here, what's coming up is this fear of getting sick. And this DNA methyl marker that was created in response to the fear of getting sick. Now, obviously, that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? There can be protective mechanisms and things that happen in order to boost that. But sometimes that fear of getting sick can become pathological, right? It can be unhealthy and have not so healthy consequences. So we're focusing on this DNA methyl markers within your these cells and its connection with this fear of getting sick. So we're zooming in on this a little bit more on this fear of getting sick. And what's coming up is something related to your childhood and when you got sick as a child, and negative experiences you had as a child when you were sick. For example, taking medicine, receiving an injection, or being hospitalized, taking medicine that didn't taste very good and made you feel worse in some ways. Maybe the way in which people treated you in a not so nice way when you were sick as a child. They kept their distance. They didn't want to be near you. They didn't want to touch you. They didn't want to catch what you got. So that fear as well. One of the other images that's coming up related to this childhood being sick experience was, I think many of us, I know I was, were intentionally exposed to things like chickenpox, right? The chickenpox parties. So that's one of the memories that's coming up here to be addressed as well, the chickenpox party. Not really knowing what's happening, but being put with these other kids, right? Relatives or friends of family, whatever, who had the chickenpox, and they had those scabs and those, they all over their face, all over their body, and they'd been scratching, and then you had to hang out with them, didn't know what was going on. It was confusing, but you didn't really have a choice. All right. So we're bringing all of that into focus. From here, we're going to focus on your brain. We're going back into your brain and that corpus callosum again, and reestablishing the focus of the corpus callosum. All right, so let's tap this out. So again, you can place a hand over your chest, right? Because we're working on your lungs and the cells lining the air passages of your lung. Uh-oh. People are saying that the sound cut out. I don't think there's anything I can do about that. I don't know if that is specific to me or to others. See, so that might just be your connection. The recording should be fine, so when you if you want to rewatch the video, you'll catch those parts that you missed. So it's probably just a connection between there. All right. So we're coming back to your brain, focusing on your brain and the overwhelm in your brain. So highlighting the overwhelm in your brain. And we're going to do a somewhat advanced BodyTalk procedure, something that's called a defragmentation. And this defragmentation is intended to help, in this case, help to decrease that overwhelm. All right, so hand on your head again, bring focus to that overwhelm in your brain, and do the tapping again, head, chest, belly, slow, deep breaths. Defragging the overwhelm in your brain. So defragmentation is a process that's related to computers and defragmenting your hard drive. So just helping to bring more clarity, decreasing the overwhelm. Okay, if you're still tapping, you can stop whenever you're ready. So now we're focusing on your brain, going into your brain. We're focusing again on the amygdala, and we're going into the amygdala. and highlighting the amygdala's connection with the rest of your brain. So just bringing focus, awareness to that connection. From there, we're focusing again on your immune system, going into your immune system, and this time we're going to focus specifically on T cells. So as I mentioned in the previous session, the T cells are part of your adaptive immune system. They have a gene shuffling capacity that allows them to adapt to and deal with foreign invaders which they've never encountered before. So that is that's the primary characteristic of the adaptive immune system. It's able to adapt, it's able to evolve. So we're focusing on T cells. There are several kinds of T cells. We're focusing on the killer T cells. So I think of killer T cells like the special forces of the military, right? The Navy SEALs, the Green Berets in the US, right? So a killer T cells. And we're focusing on the connection between these killer T cells and your brain. We're going into your brain. Okay, so in your brain, we're focusing on the connection between killer T cells and B cells. So killer T cells target viruses and virus-infected cells. Okay, so that's the function of the killer T cells. They deal with substances or microbes which have invaded the cells, so they're inside the cells. And the B cells deal with invaders that are outside of the cells. So in your brain, we're just highlighting and bringing more focus, awareness to that connection between the killer T cells and the B cells. One thing that we're emphasizing here with these killer T cells are their ability to detect not just human cells that have been invaded by viruses, but also bacteria that have been invaded by viruses. Because viruses are many times smaller than bacteria, and viruses can actually attack bacteria, right, and use their machinery to replicate. So we're just highlighting that as well, bringing more consciousness, awareness to that function of the killer T cells. Okay, so we're going to zoom back out from the brain. Okay, so from here, we're going to focus on your gut brain and what's known as your gut-associated lymphatic tissue. So most of your lymphatic tissue, your lymphatic system, is actually a major part of your immune system. It's a major part of your immune system, and most of the lymphatic tissue actually resides in your gut, in your intestinal tract, right? These things you might remember from your biology classes called Peyer's patches. So we're focusing on this gut-associated lymphatic tissue in your gut brain, and we're zooming in on that, and we're focusing in on the microbes here in the gut-associated lymphatic tissue. These microbes that we're bringing into focus are the healthy microbes. And as I zoom in on those healthy microbes, in your GALT, your gut-associated lymphatic tissue, those microbes are also they are feeling attacked. They are feeling attacked. They're feeling energetically as if everyone is against them. So what we're doing here is recognizing that not all microbes are bad. Not all microbes are bad. There's been a lot of study and research recently actually demonstrating the negative consequences of overdoing it with antibiotics, for example. And now with all of the emphasis on cleanliness and washing your hands and sanitizing and using bleach and antimicrobial this, antimicrobial that, that can really have an influence on the health and function of your gut-associated lymphatic tissue and compromise your immune system. So there's a balance, right? So what we're doing here for these microbes in your GALT is simply recognizing that not all microbes are bad and giving them the supports which they need in order to do their job. So these microbes that live in the GALT, that live in the other areas of your body, these microbes are part of your immune system, right? They're part of the immune system. They help to fight foreign invaders. So if these microbes are not healthy, if they're not well supported, then your immune system is not working as well as it could. Okay, so we're really bringing focus to nutrition and the need for a healthy diet. So one of the types of foods really that your microbes, particularly the ones that live in your digestive tract that are part of your immune system, one of the foods that these bugs really like are your veggies, right? Your fruits and veggies, more so veggies and more so the green leafy veggies. And so they love these veggies. They love the fiber, they love the nutrients, and it's this plant, the plant aspect of our diets, right, that really help the microbes to thrive. These are, you could call these types of foods prebiotics, right? So you've probably heard of probiotics, but prebiotics actually feed the microbes, the healthy microbes in your body. All right, we're going to tap out all this. So go ahead, you can place a hand on your belly for that lymphatic tissue there, and then go ahead and do the tapping. The gut-associated lymphatic tissue, the killer T cells, the B cells, the killer T cells' ability to deal with viruses, even viruses that have invaded bacteria. And all that stuff with the GALT and the emphasis on nutrition. Okay, when you're ready, you can stop tapping. I think there's one more thing, it seems like, that needs to be brought into focus. And that's your brain. So I tend to do a lot of talking and explaining when I'm doing sessions, so makes the session sometimes a bit longer. But anyway, focusing on your brain, going into your brain, and in your brain highlighting this fear of being sick, the fear of being sick. And zooming in on this fear of being sick, the image that comes up is you being in hospital. Just seeing you lying in a hospital bed with a hospital gown on and, you know, hooked up to a ventilator or whatever, all these things. So I'm not saying I'm not saying that, you know, if you're listening to this, that's what's happening. I'm talking about that's the imagery that goes along with this fear of being sick, the way that your mind, right, starts to boot up these scenarios that aren't real, right? They're not happening. So we're zooming in on that, I'm going to call it an active memory, right, of being in the hospital and being sick. Doing another advanced procedure called a defragmentation to help bring clarity to that. So it's really about helping to reduce and eliminate that the strong mental and emotional charge associated with that story, with that imagery. Right? So the way that your subconscious, unconscious is just feeding into that scenario. Your brain's fear of being sick, and connecting that again with your immune system, going into your immune system. And again, your immune system's fear of being sick, going into that. And once again, we're just highlighting these various memories and images from your history when you were sick, and the negative associations with being sick, and the fear associated with being sick, the fear that you experienced in your history, in your past. Okay, we're going to tap that out. So you can place a hand over the middle of your chest, do the tapping. And when you're ready, you can stop tapping. Alrighty, so that's what we have for this follow-up. I definitely encourage you to, if you haven't watched the previous one, definitely watch the previous one because this session is building on that previous session. So we worked with one of the same areas again in today's session, the same area that we worked with in the previous, the amygdala, that plays a big role in the fight, flight, stress response. We did a lot more work today with your immune system. We did specific work with your lungs, right? So, and in the lungs, working at that genetic level, right, and that epigenetic level. So addressing those things. So, you know, after this session, as a result of this session, you might feel healthier, you might feel stronger, you might feel more energy. If you felt like you were getting sick and you were feeling things in your lungs, the session will probably help with that, so you may notice some improvements there. Just be, it's a fine line with energy medicine and the whole allopathic conventional approach, as far as, especially in a situation like this. So I can't, I'm not guaranteeing anything, not saying certain things are definitely going to happen, but I think there's a lot that was done there, especially for your lungs, to help your lungs, support your lungs, to help your lungs to heal, to help them to be stronger, to be healthier. A lot of the stuff that we did with your immune system, helping to strengthen your immune system, support your immune system. I think many of you watching this have seen the information about the downsides of taking certain fever suppressing medicines. So be mindful of that. Fevers are a natural part of your immunity. That's how your body evolved to fight disease, was through fevers. So I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to say don't take aspirin or ibuprofen or Tylenol or whatever, but just pay attention. Okay, so I think that's it for now. I think this is probably going to be the last one of these sessions that I'll be doing, at least for now. That's what I'm feeling. So thanks everyone for checking it out. If you feel drawn to share this, please do. As I said, that previous session has reached almost 6,000 people. So share with whomever, and I hope this helps. And be well, and be safe, and take care. All right, in your service.